Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Dr. Tesh. Welcome. The channel where we teach about medicine, healing, and motivation, also touching around topics regarding healing the mind, the body, and the soul. Right, so if you're interested in soul journeys, you are in the right space and place. A lot is going on. Hey guys, a lot is going on in these dimensions. Are you guys ready for the new earth? Guys, the new earth is upon us. The energy of the new earth is upon us. Are you guys preparing? Are you guys prepared? Because what is about to come is oh my god. I was saying the pasta the alien thing. Then you must know that something has shifted, okay, in the atmosphere. You guys need to upgrade the frequencies. We've been saying, I'm pretty sure people are just like, you know what? These new age healers, they are crazy. They are don't, they are mad. No, guys, right? The earth, the world is going through a shift, right? And it has been going through the shift for many years. The coming of the new age, the coming of the new earth, all right? This is what's happening, all right? So if you have not upgraded your frequency, I suggest you start working, all right, on upgrading your frequency and upgrading that DNA. Rona re tla be re palama di-spaceship. O tla be o le kae? Re tla be re palama di-dragon. O tla be o le kae? Oh, guys, I'm joking, ne? But I'm not joking. I'm being serious and non-serious at the same time. All right, so if you have not subscribed, please do subscribe. Welcome. My name is Natasha. Some people call me Dr. Tesh. Some people say Gogo. I really don't mind it. All right. What do? I'm here to teach. I teach, right, about spirituality. I teach, right, about medicine, healing, and motivation. I'm a teacher at heart. I started teaching on this platform many years ago when I started doing my foodies medicine videos. I started talking about topics, right, regarding healing, etc. So I've always been a teacher at heart, all right? And so now we are teaching, right, about spirituality. So this is a channel for people who are into higher consciousness. Higher consciousness, right? We are not going back. We are going forward. I also acknowledge those people who have recently subscribed, right, on my channel. Welcome, right? Thank you for subscribing. I hope you learned something, right, on your stay here on my channel. Thank you for all the engagement, for all the messages. I see everything. Okay, right. So back to the topic of higher consciousness. Today's topic is going to be about the eye of the needle. The eye of the needle. It's going to be a collective teaching about moving out of the matrix, right? So we keep on hearing people talk about the matrix. Dr. Tesh, how do we move out of this matrix? To briefly explain, the matrix, right, is something that is controlled by the elite, okay? It's everything that has to do with the 3D consciousness. This 3D world that we are in, everything that has to do with structures, systems, okay? Religion, politics, education, just the whole system in general. Everything that controls the consciousness of this 3D world, that is the matrix. All right. So who controls the matrix? It is the elite. So for some of us that are upgrading, right, our frequencies and upgrading our consciousness, right, into the 5D consciousness, we have moved out of the matrix, right? So the eye of the needle, where does this actually come from? On the spiritual or on the soul initiation, there's like multiple stages to this awakening, right? When you finish one thing, the next thing comes. It's like there's different classes, right, in the spiritual world. We are not all in the same classes, guys. Right? We are not all in the same classes. Some people are still in grade 1, some people are in grade 5, some people in grade 10. There's levels. As you keep on maturing, as you keep on growing, right, on your soul's evolution, you enter new grades, right, or new states of consciousness. After I went through some of my awakening stages, I had a vision, and in this vision I was shown an eye. It was like the eye was staring back at me. And I thought to myself, where did I see this before? Right, so the eye has been on many logos. One of them would be the eye of Horus, right, from the Egyptian mythologies. Some of you have seen the eye, right, in the triangle, right, the all-seeing eye. But when I woke up, I actually thought, and I said, hold up, there was a parable, right, that I remember from primary school, actually, right, where they taught about Jesus, right, and he actually taught about this parable, and he was talking about the camel, right, and the needle of the eye. Christ had some really, really good teachings, no? Even though I'm not super religious, I'm a spiritual person, I'm a spiritual woman. Christ, guys, had some really good teachings. And when you actually listen to some of his parables and you listen to some of the metaphors, because he spoke in parables, he spoke in metaphors, some of the things you really just need to decode. And even though, yes, his message was kind of misconstrued, but his teachings were actually legit, right? He was what people would say woke. One of his teachings, where he actually taught about the eye of the needle, he said it's easier for a camel to enter the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God. Right, so let's try to break down what this is. What was Jesus talking about? I know in the religious context, they directly translate it, right, to if you're rich, you're not going to heaven, right? So basically getting rid of like your material wealth and the things that you've acquired, all right? But in the mystical world, right, and in the spiritual world, eye of the needle is actually a symbol for transformation, inner transformation and inner alchemy. So if you think about how small the eye of a needle is, right? So if you can picture a needle, it's got what? It has like a loop, right? And then it's going down. And so you can see how thin or how narrow, right, that needle is. I actually thought about it the other day. I'm like, wait, doesn't this actually almost look like the ankh, right? Which is also a combination of the divine feminine and the divine masculine energies, right? If you don't know what I'm talking about, please go watch my videos on the twin flame and the twin souls. I explain everything, right? You can also catch up. I talked about it in the higher initiation, right, of the gods. You'll need to go watch my videos, guys, so that things can make sense if you just got here. Okay, so the twin souls, the reason why they need to go through that divine union, the inner union, right, which is the combination of the divine feminine and the divine masculine energies, is to stabilize what? The Trinity. It actually births new frequencies. It births new frequencies. Number two, it collapses the matrix, which is the 3D consciousness. All right. So that inner union, the coming together of the divine feminine and the divine masculine aspect, is the one that's going to move you up, right, from 3D into what? 4D consciousness, right? Which is what? All about operating from the heart space. All right. Because remember, I did say the heart is the gateway. The heart is 4D consciousness and soul consciousness. All right. And then moving from 4D, this is what is going to get us into what? 5D and even higher dimensions. That eye of the needle, right, which is that loophole, it actually depicts a process and a passage through which a person should pass in order to become more aligned, right, with what? With truth, with spirit, and with higher consciousness, right? And the reason that it is so narrow is because not everything is going to make it through. In order to pass that needle, or in order to pass through the eye of the needle, right, there's so many things that you have to let go of, right? This is not an easy process. It's not even an easy pathway, right? It is for those that are called to walk the path. So the narrowness depicts, or it actually talks about, only the essential things can pass through. Let's unpack what this actually means. Releasing the ego, or releasing an ego-based identity. Talked about, the dying of the ego, the dying of the self, all right? This all happens, right, where? In the dark night of the soul, all right? So you need to go and watch those videos. Letting go of fear and control. You're not going to go anywhere, guys, on your soul initiation if you are still afraid, number one, and if you are still sort of operating under a system of control. And that talks about everything, right? Because going through your soul initiation or going through this higher consciousness is all about what? Freedom. The freedom, right, of the soul. So if you're still operating under any construct, it could be relationships that are holding you down. It could be friends, right, that are stagnating, right, your energy, your frequency. It could be things that you believe, that you were taught and told when you were young, right, including things about religion and, you know, concepts about heaven and hell. And, you know, if you're still held by a construct, you're going to have a very hard time, right, going into, right, this higher consciousness. So it requires you to let go of fear. It requires you to let go of any form of control and just let the universe, right, do its thing, right? Remember, I did say that on your soul initiation, if you go back to my video where I actually talked about, you know, the initiation of the higher gods, I did speak, right, about the heart getting weight, right? And there's an ancient Kemetic symbol for this. So you have to let go, right, of a lot of things. Unforgiveness, trauma, right? Things that are weighing you down spiritually, right? Your heart literally needs to be as light as a feather. And that is why this passage or this eye, right, in the needle, it is so thin. It's so thin because you have to let go, right, of a lot of things. All right. So on soul initiation, yes, as much as you don't have a physical person with you there all the time, you are being monitored, right, from higher realms, from the angelic realms, from the realms, right, of the gods. Some of you are told in your dreams that you are being initiated by the higher gods, right? Your heart is the gateway and your heart will be assessed, all right? So like I said, we are healing the mind, the body, the soul. This is a holistic healing. In order for you to ascend, if you are on the pathway to ascension, if you're on the pathway to the Christ consciousness, you have to cleanse your heart. It is the 4D consciousness that's going to usher you, right, into higher dimensions. Oh, you have to heal, guys. Heal, 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 heal. And that is why you are taken through healing. Healing ancestral traumas. Healing karmic bonds. Healing healing yourself. Healing your mind. Healing in all aspects. All right. Another thing that you have to let go of is attachment. Surrendering the attachment. What are you attached to in this life? Are you attached to money? Are you attached to materialistic things? Now, I'm not saying that money and wealth is not important, right? But attachment, right? Meaning that without those things, you're not going to be able to survive. Attachment can also talk about our attachment to people. This is why on the journey, you'll be losing a lot of friends, people that are not supposed to walk with you, right? As you upgrade in frequency, you'll be losing relationships, right, that are not authentic, that are not sort of operating out of the heart space. The attachment, right, to this physical world is what actually needs to die. Other reason why this needle is also so narrow is because many people have not undergone purification. So again, if you go back to my previous videos, you're going to understand purification, right, on the soul journey. It is one of the first stages. People who are entering their soul initiations, you have to go through a period of purification. And purification does not only refer to people that you are sort of giving your energy to, right? Maybe in terms of sexual intimacy, etc. Yes, that is very important. Cutting ties with relationships that don't serve you, right? Keeping yourself pure. Your body, yes, it is a temple. You go into the higher initiations, they are going to require you, right, to get into a state of purity, because this initiation can only take place in a state of purity, right? And many people fail that test, and that is why the needle, right, it is so thin, because many people have not yet learned the art of what? Self-control. They have not yet learned the art of dying to your earthly desires, dying to the flesh. Purification can also talk about what? It can also talk about the things that you think, the thoughts, how you think about yourself, how you think about other people. Are you always seeing yourself as a victim, right? Or do you take responsibility, right, for certain things that are happening in and around your life? Do you see the parts that you actually play, right, in terms of how your life is panning out, right? Things that you are watching, right, through the media, things that you are engaging in the socials. I remember when I started my initiation, my soul initiation, right, I had to cut ties with social media. But if you had to speak to any one of my friends, they will tell you that, okay, Dr. Tash has not been here for many years. Social media, because these things can drain your energy, right? And especially when you're going through your soul initiation, you have to purify yourself, purify your space, purify your thoughts. And this is sort of you going into this period of isolation and detachment. Because trust me, when you go on your soul initiation, you're going to meet a lot of tests. You're going to meet a lot of people that test you. People making funny comments. Now that they know that you're on a spiritual journey, they think that they can joke around, right, about your spiritual path. Undermining your gift, right? So this is why our ancestors take us through this isolation period. It is very important. It is part of the purification process. So the eye of the needle, in order for you to go through this transformation, you're going to have to go through a stage of purification. Purification can also talk about the things that we ingest, the foods that we eat. I remember many years ago, I was still living in Asia, and I just had this overwhelming feeling, right, that I need to change my diet. I became vegan for, was it just over a year? Your spiritual awakening does not start the day you say, yes, I'm going to accept my spiritual gift or accepting my spiritual path. Your spiritual awakening has started a long time ago. All right, so some of you will have nudges where you are told to change your diet, right? Because there's certain foods that hinder you, right? Number one, energetically. Remember, you are what you eat. Constantly eating fatty foods, fast foods, you're constantly going to be feeling tired, right? And food is supposed to give you energy. You just need to go back to some of my videos. I think I posted this many years back, right? We'll try to keep it clean, guys. Try to keep it clean for the most part. Try to keep an alkaline diet. Drink a lot of water. I already spoke about friends, companies that you surround yourself with. I already spoke about what? Celibacy. Many people will not get through the eye of the needle because they can not become celibate. Your angels tell you to refrain from engaging, right, with another person for a period of time, and you can't do that. You can't listen. Celibacy is the key to the Kundalini rising. Celibacy is one of the keys to upgrading your frequency, upgrading your DNA. And when Dr. Tash tells you, no, Dr. Tash, you're exaggerating, there's no one who can live without... We're going into the 5D world, guys. Right? And so many things have to change, all right? You also have to pass that test. Eye of the needle, it is talking about the spiritual transformation, right, into the higher dimensions, into higher consciousness, into the ascension. All right, so integration is probably one of the last stages. And now you live with the awareness, right, that the human is a complex thing. You live with the awareness that in this world, we don't just only exist in the 3D. You live with the awareness that you can tap into higher dimensions. You live with the awareness that there are other spiritual beings that live in the other dimensions that we are connected to and we can interact with, right? So your consciousness, now what? It gets expanded. It expands. You learn new things, guys, every day on this journey. So that was the talk today about the eye of the needle and sort of moving out of the matrix. All right, I don't want this video to be too long. Please remember, guys, to subscribe. Remember to do the right things. Yeah, man, I will see you next time. Bye.